Hello everyone. Today, one more live streaming. Today, we are covering agentic backtesting so that we can use AI agents to assist on the running of experiments, trading strategies. Let me show you about this vibe coding show, which is based on building real life projects on streaming. If you go to these websites, you will see all of the chapters. Previously, I had made other live streamings. Here you have got the Dayton's stories, working with data from the Federal Reserve, the stock markets, Alpaca APIs, backtesting.py, also energy data from the Energy Information Administration of the US Energy, and many others that you can see. If you click on them, you will be able to see it on your own while I develop the live streaming, building real projects in real time with real data. For the next sessions, since I'm gonna do this every week, you will have the upcoming ones in this website, daytons.com/streams. And if you want to join via Zoom so that you can interact with audio in real time and ask me questions, solve answers, reserve here and you will receive the link to join the Zoom. Probably during this session, I'll put the link to Zoom if you want to interact later during the streaming. On top of that, Daytons is my company. I'm building projects with AI into web applications. So if you want to discuss, have an exploratory call with how I might help you, you tell me your problem, and where is your priorities, you can go here, book a call with me. Here is what we will do: project assessment, technical feasibility, approach outline, and my honest advice. To schedule it, you can go into the free call with me. You'll see my availability. You pick a time slot, and we are ready to go and meet each other and see how we can help. Good. So now going back to the today's projects, what are we building? It is a AI agent that runs experiments while we sleep. I don't like to say while we sleep, but it's very flashy. In real terms, we will say to the chat, hey, test an SMA crossover on these stocks, Apple, Microsoft, Google, with periods 10 fast, 20 to 200 slow, and the AI will interpret the text to call the tools that we will build, and it will say, all right, I'm already running the 27 experiments across the 3 symbols, and once it finishes, it will give us a report in a PDF. This is the main output of this live streaming during these projects. Now, in the context, why this matters. If you have taken my course on practical Python for algorithmic trading on LinkedIn Learning, you've probably worked with Y Finance, backtesting.py, performance metric. But today, we will be working with AI tools so that you can have the capabilities of AI to assist on your AI trading strategies while you develop it. If you haven't already, check out the course on this link. And here you will see all of the outline. For this session, it's not required that you have taken this course, since I can do that for you. We'll do it step by step using Claude Code to develop the codes in real time. So here you have got the outline, backtesting with classification models because we are using machine learning, also regression models when we try to predict how much the stock will go up or down, not just if it goes up or down. And the most important things which are backtesting optimization, which is if you have many strategies, how you can test the parameters simultaneously so that you get a heat map. If you see in the first video, you will see at some points that we are building these AI models, and this is the most important part, that when you develop a trading strategy, for example, the limits, the threshold you establish to buy the stock or sell it, here you see a heat map that if you say for tomorrow the stock is going down -1%, so that's the limit to sell. And if it's a limit to buy, it goes up 2%, that's when you buy. And in this heat map, you will take the parameters that gives you the highest value. In this case, it's the configuration limit by 0. So if it goes up, any percentage, and the limit to sell is -1%. And it will give you a return of 11,000 on the stock. So with this in mind, the process of building backtesting strategies looks like this. Because after you see the report of which are the best thresholds, you will see that the research loop goes like this. First, you have an hypothesis, you build the trading strategy, then you backtest the trading strategy to see how well it performed on past data using train test splits and validation. Then we analyze the results, and finally, we repeat the process by modifying how we establish the hypothesis parameters, the backtest, go back to analyze and repeat again until we find an optimal solution. The problem is that these processes are manual, and the real thing is that we spend a lot of time not really on the backtest, developing the strategies, but running the parameters with SMA here, for example, 2050. If the RSA is lower than 30, we buy it. The RSA is the relative strength index, which we will develop during this lesson today. And also the SMA is the simple moving average strategy with crossovers. So we change the parameter. Now we say 10 until 100. If we put the RSA to lower than 25, we buy. And this takes a lot of time. It's 45 runs. Then we write up the findings, the Sharpe ratio, which strategies gives us the best returns, and then we establish the new strategy or parameterization, and it's going back and forth. So we can automate this, as we said earlier, by letting the AI configure these experiments, and after they get the results, the AI system can also validate the results and configure the parameters again. And this is an example of how we will configure it. It's a YAML file, which is we're going to test the strategies over these symbols using the simple moving average, the RSA thresholds, and then let the AI run these experiments and modify the configuration of this file automatically based on the results iteratively. The solution for today is, in basic terms, configuring the trading strategy into a YAML file to define what we are going to test, the agent orchestrator, which is the LLM, with connected to the tools that we will develop so that it can take the input from the trading configuration and run the backtest. We can run this in parallel, and finally get the AI report. In other words, YAML configuration, agent orchestrator, developing the tools of backtest, analyze, and report to finally produce the PDF. So with Python, Cloud Codes, backtesting.py, which is the library to develop the backtests, and Plotly for the visualizations, we will develop the solution. So let's start to build. If you have any questions, please let me know in the chats whenever you want. Feel free to interrupt. I like this to be engagement so that I can solve the issues that you have, because sometimes I am not aware and I keep on going through the streaming without considering your most important things to learn. All right, so let me move this here and start the projects. Data AI. So whenever you are working on a project, for example, here, this is the folder on my computer. If I want to open a new project, which is the folder for today here, I'm gonna create in the source, let's put a new folder that will be codes, for example. And from here, I am going to open the terminal, which I use Ghosty. There we have it. And from here, the program that I use is NVim, but probably you are more used to work with Visual Studio, so you can open Visual Studio Codes, which you have here. And once you're here, you can simply move the folder we had created, which is the one of code, and it will open a new window of the Visual Studio to work on the repo. Now, if you are new to coding with Cloud Codes, you can go here, search for the Cloud extension, and then you can open it if you have it installed. I have it here, so you click on install, configure it, and in my case, I can have it in this part. All right, so let's get started. First, from the LinkedIn Learning course, if you have taken the course, because I'm gonna use those materials as a reference, you can open the GitHub code spaces from here. This URL is public, although take a look at the license because you may need to be a LinkedIn Learning member to properly use these materials on your own. And in my case, I'm gonna clone these materials on my laptop, and I'm gonna use the AI to help me build the tools on top of this. So from here, I'm gonna tell Cloud Code. Cloud Code is an AI agent that is running on your laptop in the folder. So I can tell, hey, I'm gonna do this with a tool which is called Whisper Flow. And with this tool, if I start speaking, it will transcribe what I'm telling. So I want you I want you to clone this repository because I'm going to build an AI agent tools to assist me on developing trading strategies and configuring them. I paste this, and now since it has access to my terminal, it can clone it. And here it's asking me for permission to do it. So yeah, let's do it. And here we have it. I'm gonna move it into a folder called data, and okay, but it says that I'm gonna stop it because it thinks since I have moved it to another folder that it hasn't cloned, but I'm gonna interrupt. This is very important that whenever the AI goes on rambling, you stop it right away so that you know what you're doing and you're in control. It's like driving a car. Here I'm gonna put it inside references. I don't want to have many files in this folder. All right. Now, let's start with the structure of the projects, because at the end of the day, remember that we want to build a system that's based on the no, it's good. All right. We are building a system that in the chats I can tell test SMA crossover on Google, Apple, Microsoft, etc. Let me capture it. And the agent can itself run the experiment. So if I do this right now in Claude Codes, I tell, hey, test the SMA crossover on Apple, blah, blah, blah. I hit enter, and here it's finding the files because it doesn't know where I have the codes, etc. But it's trying to read some code that I have built on this course. It's not right away understanding the tool, let's say. So let's stop it, and I will tell you are not using a proper tool to test these backtesting strategies. So instead, I want you to build the tools. For that, we will use the backtesting.py library, and also we want to build it in a way that is on a project with UV. I'll show you later what it is. And also, let's do it with an approach that is a command line tool. A command line tool is a Python code you can run or in the terminal to build it. So for example, here, if I have Ghosty and I run some program, let's say that I want to run, I don't know, use curl and datons.com. So curl is an application to gather data from a domain. If I run it, it's executed. So the same thing, but with running backtesting techniques. So we can say here backtester dots, and then here it selects a configuration of a strategy that we create, and we call it, for example, SMA, and then here we start with the configuration of the parameters, etc. So this is what it means, a command line interface application. All right, so let's go back to Visual Studio. Here is with the asking the permissions. This is one thing that I don't like about starting the projects normally when vibe coding, because I have tell the requirements to Claude, but it's already developing everything. And I don't want that because I'm an expert. You are an expert. So you should be in control of first what's gonna the output, the result of the files and folders that Claude will build look like. And then once you approve it, you start it. So let's stop it here right away. Now let's modify so that we are on plan mode. And I will ask, first of all, I need a plan to build this and tell me what the folder structure will look like. Now it's thinking about how it's going to present this. So let's take a look. And it says that it will build backtest.cli, okay, as RC, which is the typical name of folder where it will put the files and folders of the program. Here we have different strategies, the data fetcher to gather the data from Y Finance, and the runner to execute the trading strategies. And finally, the folder for the outputs, which is the for the report. Remember that this is the code, but I don't see a folder to to have the outputs of the different backtest strategies that we will run. So I don't see the folders to run the to have the outputs of the runs of the experiments that you perform. So where would that go? All right, now it's creating backtest CLI, and here we see the outputs runs, which is good. Mm, what I don't like is that typically on a project, the SRC is at the same level that the test folder. So it should be inside. I don't like I don't like having the outputs and the test outside of SRC. Also, instead of output, I'd like to name the folder data, and inside you can put the outputs. This tool of talking and having the transcription right away is awesome. It's very good. It's above all for the streaming because I can speak at the same time, have that type it. All right, so here it seems that everything is good. This looks right, but it's going to create me a middle folder, which is backtest.cli. But since this is gonna be the repo of the project, and I have already the data folder, here I just want the outputs so that we have everything here. I'm gonna tell do not create the backtest.cli folder. Go directly into this folder, creating the folders and files of src, etc. And this looks better. Yes, let's do it. However, since, well, I'm on planning mode. It should have created a plan, but apparently it's already going right away. So there are some, I don't know, failures on this AI system of Claude codes in the extension. In any case, let's allow the edits for this session and now go on edit automatically. So as you can see here, it's creating these files automatically, the ASRC folder, the data for fetching the information from Y Finance, etc. Let's allow these commands, which is to create the folders. And meanwhile, it creates the system of folders. Let me show you about the tools that we are using here. For example, UV is a Python package manager that is very fast compared to PIP, which is the usual way you install the programs. It's 10 to 100 times faster than PIP. And here you see all of the documentation to first install it, and to install the packages, you can simply use UV ads, and it already creates a virtual environment for you. It's all synced and cached. It's the modern way to build Python projects nowadays because it's very fast and comfortable to use on the development. On top of that, if you want to productize this application, deploy it to an online server so that the AI agent can run while you sleep, you can also work with Docker, which you have here the instructions, and run it on development modes or with Docker Compose, etc. It's very well documented and recommended. And from here, the creation of the command line interface, the backtester we had conceived before in here, it will be very easy to implement. You will see later. So it's a very cool library to work with in Python developing applications. And here you can see how it's running the Python codes. Also, we click on yes. And here you see that it's already creating the virtual environment automatically with all of the Python libraries that we need. So now it asks to the help to understand which are the trading strategies. Click. And here you can see it. Backtest trading strategies. Here we have the commands. One is the SMA crossover and the parameter sweep for SMA crossover strategy. There are many things to improve here that we will do after iterating on the model. Have you worked with these tools already, like Claude Code and UV, Docker, the command line interface? Let me know in the comments. I'm gonna try something and see if it works. All right, so the process has finished. I think we've got a working solution already. Let me see on the folder we had, which is data, outputs, the runs, and here we can see the results. This is the HTML, the configuration of the file, and the results. However, I don't like to have the configurations on JSON because it has a lot of wordiness and symbols like this. I rather prefer to have YAML structure. So let's change it. Let's change the system to work with YAML instead of JSON. What here you can see is that on any edit, it's adding new files, documentation. Now it's running again to check if everything worked all right. And here we can see that we've got the information in a YAML structure. Basically, we are removing these symbols, which makes the configuration a bit hard to read. And we can remove these two folders already. Okay, so now on these results, to open them and seeing what it looks like, let's ask the chat. However, if this is an HTML file, you can click on the mouse secondary button and open in the Finder. And from here, you can directly click twice and you will see the trading strategy here. And to read this chart, in this case, we are working with the configuration of Apple stock, the iPhone, and we are using an SMA, which is simple moving average. And here is how we can read this chart. So at the beginning, this is how the Apple stock is behaving, the black line. And from here, we can observe that we've got an operation on this triangle. The operation started at this point, which is on the dates here, 19th of April, 2021. Remember that we are backtesting these strategies. And if we go a little bit to the right, let me zoom in. I can do it with the mouse. Here, for example, you can observe at the beginning that we start the operation. This is 20th of April. We buy the stock at a price of 131. Let me see if I can put this, yeah, 131. The time passes, and then in the 27th of May, the stock is at $123. You see that the moving average bands, which are the blue line you see and the orange line, those lines are referencing like the long-term patterns or average of the stock, the behavior of how the Apple stock is behaving. And in this case, when it crosses the short-term bands, which in this case is moving the moving average 20, basically you take the 20 days prior of the Apple stock, you calculate the average, and that's the number for this day. In this case, for the 19th or yeah, 19th of April. And since the lines are crossing, the blue one, which is the short term, it's crossing the long term, it means that there is an opportunity that in the long term, the stock price of the Apple stock is going to go up. So this is a signal to buy the stock. And this is what they did. They bought the stock. However, you can see that the stock, instead of going up, it went down. And that's why after crossing the bands again of long term and short term, this is moving average 20 days prior and moving average 50 days prior, it's a signal to sell the stock. So it sells, and this is a loss on the transaction because we bought the stock at 130 and we closed it at 122. So it's lower price. And that's why this triangle here is a red. Now, if we go zoom out and see the whole chart, let me see if, no, we can reset. So in this chart, we observe many triangles, and in the top, we have the numbers. The legend here is practically, okay. So the line here is the equity, which is the result of if we start at 100% investing, I don't know, $1 million, we observe that by the date 7th of January, we have the equity at 110%. This is, we have 10% higher, we are earning, and that's why that's based on these operations. At the beginning, we had lost, and then we have recovered with two successful operations, one of almost 5%, another with almost 15%. And the accumulation of all of these operations results in the peak value of having 38% above what we invested, the 100%. And this is the 24% at the end of the period that we had backtested. These are 900 days in total. Now, one of the most important metrics is the drawdown because it reflects how much you are willing to keep losing to trust on your strategy until you have a successful uh, accumulated operations that you are earning money. And you see the red line here. This is when you are at a peak value, in this case, 112% on equity. But since then, you have been going down and never recovered back up to that point until the 24th of June, which has passed a lot of time since December of the previous year. And are you willing to wait for those moments and even lose 13% of your equity? The answer is yes. Then your strategy is successful. You can use it to um, build your strategy and put it on real life. And this is basically how you read this type of charts. At the bottom, you've got the volume of the stock, how many stocks are being bought and sold each time, and how much of those operations are successful or not. That's basically how you read this chart. All right, now let's go back to the code because this is only one strategy. We have earned at the end 124%. That's reasonable. It is not reasonable. This is just one backtest result that we have obtained. Let's run many others so that we can see the reports with in which stock should we put our money and with what strategy and configuration so that we can earn the maximum amount possible. Let's go back to the code. All right. I don't know what they put on swaps, but okay. Let me collapse everything. And then here, okay. So let me create a plan document. Plan, and let's put one context, for example, and let's start sketching what we are going to do. So step one is, or not the steps, let's first brainstorm and then we will prioritize. At the end of the day, we want to build a system that is a CLI AI agents to backtest trading strategies. And to do this, we need a CLI for the AI agents. We are going to use UV, also the folders in the outputs, and we need to structure multiple strategies. At the end of the day, how do I want to the AI agent to interact with this tool? It will be something like, for example, in the command line interface to have backtester that can be, or let me change the name. Let's put it to VT, for example. And I want to use it in a way that I have strategies and then I can specify the configuration through a file. But I'm not sure how I want this. So let me first review or discuss with the chat how this should be done so that it's built for scalability and ease of use for the AI agent. There is a thing as well that I'm not particularly familiar working with Visual Studio Code because I need to go with the mouse going back and forth and it's not very clear. So let me change the command line interface, the editor of codes, and I'm gonna work with NeoBeam and with Ghosty. So in the terminal, I'm going to use nvim, and then from here, I can be more comfortable working with the AI system. All right. Now, it's the same folder, same information. Here we have got the data, the runs, the YAML files you saw earlier. Let me zoom in here. and then the results, which are the return in percentage from the equity, 24%, what we saw at the end of the previous chart, maximum drawdown percentage, etc. And now we were working with the plan, which is on the 6th line, and here I want to discuss with the chat. I want to plan the development. I want to plan the development of these projects and how I'm gonna build the command line interface so that you can use it to run these backtest trading experiments on your own, improve upon the results so that I can optimize my portfolio. What do you recommend for the command line interface? Which commands, which structure? Let's see. So it's suggesting that we use if we want to run a single backtest, we can have this VT run the strategy with the symbols specified, or use a configuration. But mm, strategy management, list of strategies. Like it seems a reasonable structure. VT run strategies. Also, we can specify in the YAML the symbols. For the agent, it's asking if you want to use Cloud Code, a Cloud Sonnet, but this is in the case we were using the API. But we are gonna use with the subscription we've got already on Cloud Code. So we can directly use also, there are very interesting questions here that they are using because at the end of the day, we are also working with just one stock at a time, like in the back test. What if we'd like to work with multiple stocks on the backtest strategy? This can be one of the key questions to address on the system. To build this and yeah, it's working. At the end of the day, working with AI, not only to let the AI have tools and run the backtest, but actually developing the system so that you can run so that the AI itself can run the backtest and iterate the strategies on top of that is very cool because As you can see, I haven't programmed a single line of code, just based on my expert knowledge of programming and how the tech stack, which strategies do I need to use, UV, how to use the command line interface, how to interact with the prompts, with the AI agent. This is at the end of the day what matters on working with AI agents to build the web application systems, this type of applications, which in this case is a command line interface. Right now, let's try to work. I mean, I don't know if there are many viewers. It appears that there are two. Let's see if you want to join on the Zoom, so that we can interact via audio. So I'm gonna start the Zoom, and let's try. All right, so I'm gonna share a link on the chat in YouTube if you want to join to the Zoom, we can interact and develop this on our own. All right, so the AI agent has finished to develop the CLI and apparently is working. We can have here the run backtest, list the strategies. Great, this is taking good shape. The configuration, the traits, the sweeps, which don't know what's that about, but we can ask later. So for the system, what else do we need to improve? Let me ask Cloud Codes, use this CLI online interface to run the backtest, analyze the results, and iterate strategies. However, I think it's going a bit slow. Yeah, I think that running this Okay, so running the Zoom on live streaming is a bit awkward because my computer cannot run all of these applications at once. I think now we are good to go. Let me ensure it. Okay, running the Zoom live streaming is a bit awkward because my computer. All right, let's leave it like that. Okay, so now we've got the system up and running with the tools of the AI agent. And now we only have two strategies, which is a simple moving average, crossover strategy, and the RSI, overbought, oversold strategies. Since we are building the tools with the trading strategies, let's ask the AI to have more strategies on the catalog so that we can run many of them at once and get the report. All right. All right. So we've got already two strategies. Now, which other strategies do you recommend so that we can run them all at once and then you review the results so that you can improve the configurations? But I'm going to interact with the chats from here. So it's thinking about adding MACD, which is a momentum type of backtesting strategy, the Bollinger Bands, and the breakouts. And here we can see how it's creating these strategies on new files, like this one, importing pandas, the backtesting library, and developing the code. Right now that we are developing the system, it doesn't make sense to pay attention of the little details of what each strategy is doing. It's not the point of this streaming. However, if you want to take a look at how this works, you can go to datons.com, and here on the search, you can type, for example, the Bollinger Bands, and you can see a tutorial where we had developed and explained how this strategy works with the Python code, building it step by step, in case you want to learn it. All right, so going back, now it's developing and testing these strategies. Here we can see how it's reading the results on top of running all of the strategies. Also, we are getting some warnings that we can improve later, but everything is going according to the plan. Here it's listing all of the strategies that we had run on each one of the stocks and which are the ones generating the highest return. Now let me analyze all the results. I'll organize the data and provide more recommendations. And here they are thinking the breakout dominates for the Apple and Microsoft stock with adjusted risk adjusted returns, while the Bollinger Bands leads on Google. I should focus on optimization efforts by adjusting. So here they are by each stock, considering the return, Sharpe ratio, maximum drawdown, and for each one of the stock. And this is what they recommend on the optimization. However, if you learn from the course, we can already run these optimizers because right now is based on one simple configuration that we can see. For example, let's take a look at the latest one. There is a problem because on the YAML configurations, I don't see the parameters here. So I need to ask the chats why this is happening. Why the configurations aren't showing up on the YAML files? Why the configurations aren't showing up on the YAML files? Now it's doing it. Okay, so there are many things considering, but there is a lot of information to compare. I think we need some kind of a web application so that we can compare the different results. So let me see what we can do here. All right, so we can see that you can run these experiments and we can navigate through the folders to review all of them, but I need some kind of web application interface so that I can navigate and highlight which are the best ones, etc. What do you recommend me for this? I mean, I can navigate through all of these folders, review the results, the configurations, but it's very uncomfortable. I cannot have a comparison table, etc., to see which one are the best strategies, stocks, etc. So let's try build some application interface using web technology, and we can compare better the strategies. So they are recommending Streamlit, which is very good in case you are not aware. You can go here, Streamlit, and in the gallery, you can see many applications. Let's see if for finance, we've got a stock peer analysis dashboard. And here we observe how we could have stock pickers. In this case, you add one of them. Theoretically, it should be running the simulation. And then here we see the results. So something similar we could have in our system. So let's use Streamlits to build such a web application. They are doing it on the existing codes, but here is the thing that you need to understand. Let me put it on perspective. So what's the problem that we are facing? In this case, we have built a system command line interface that we can test many strategies in a stock. For example, here we configure a simple moving average. We specify the parameters and they run to get the results, which are here. However, we cannot, it's hard to navigate through all of these results at once. I mean, if I want to see which one is the best or which stock, to solve this problem, we should develop the interface, a web application, so that I can have a table to compare all of these results. And in this case, we have the ask to the Claude Code, which are the options, and they recommend Streamlit, Plotly, a panel, Fast API plus Svelte. And here the simplest one to go is Streamlit in this case. And in this case, they are proposing the structure to have the folder inside the ask.rc, which is here. But this is not a good practice because on the same repository, we are having both the backend, which is the system to develop the trading strategies, and the front end. So in this case, we should split the repo in two places so that we have in one hand the back end and in the other we have the front end. So let's put it here. In the chat. All right, let's go with Streamlit. However, I think we should split the repo between backend and front end so that we have a differentiation of these architectures on the system. And at the end, I will ask like how good the folder structure look like. Here we have it. Data, backend in one side, and the front end in the other side. And then here we can have the test for both things. Yes, let's do it. In this case, we have it on the same project, but if we were to develop this system for a company, we should make a separate differentiation on a package for the front end and another package for the back end. And in this case, we would have an py project for each one of them. And inside each one, we would have the ASRC folder. But these are more enterprise grade developments in case you need to develop it. Another thing is that instead of using the CLI, we should work with APIs because that's how web applications communicate between different servers. But this is a thing that for another day, maybe. Let me know in the comments if you want to know more about that, and we can have a streaming to focus on that type of projects. Meanwhile, we can review other applications like this one. Like here they are doing a stock peer analysis with many stocks. They put the cumulative return starting on a date, like if I put 10 years, there is NVIDIA outperforming everyone. And here we get some individual stocks comparison. It's a good app. Not focused on trading strategies, which is what we will do, but it's pretty cool, however. Now, if we go back, we can have here other for finance and business. But not really focused on trading. Yeah. That's why we're building our own. All right, so now that it has finished developing the Streamlit web application, let me go to the folder and see what they have done. Now we have a proper structure with the backend in one side, the front end in another, with the components, pages. So it will be great to go and see the results. Another thing is that once the Streamlit web application has completed the code, which we see on the front end, we can have the app.py, which contains the configuration to run the Streamlit web application. You can see here like to see the columns, the backtest strategies, highlighting the best. We want to see it on the web browser, as we have in this case for the one we researched, stock peer analysis. However, they are doing it on a custom web application which is demo stock peers Streamlit app. And in our case, we want to do it for the recent application we have developed. And this is UV run Streamlit run frontend app.py. To run this automatically from the chat agent itself, which can be done perfectly, we can tell Cloud Codes, run it yourself. And we can see the application right away. This is very cool because in cases we want to apply some changes, we can tell to Cloud Codes and it will see if there are any errors because it's running the background task on its own, which is the extension of the app, the web application. So now I can go on the local host. I click here and I can see the results that we want to compare on a web application. And here we observe that the best strategy is breakout for the Apple stock. And the win rate is 92%, so which is quite good. And here we observe the details, the trades, the charts. It's quite cool. That's because we have selected the detail here. And even here we can interact. If I click, I can filter and sort. For example, I can search for the ones using the Apple to filter. Let me check if, no, not possible. It can highlight, but not filter. Maybe we can add a widget to filter. So I will tell here, that's great. That's great, thank you. Now I would like to have a search to filter in the table based on some text, like the strategy or the Apple stock, etc. It shall be only one field. So here it's going to modify the codes, and at the same time, it will develop it in the web application. Now it's done. We can see that the file has changed. So we would rerun. And here we see filter by strategy symbol. Let's use the Apple stock. I press enter to apply. And here I can only see the symbols for the Apple stock. And we see, for example, sorting by the return or the Sharpe ratio, the win rates, any other configuration that we would like. Now, to make this more right to the point and finish the application, we talk at the beginning about, let me put this here. With the presenter, it's not gonna work. That's, we want an application to tell, hey, test the SMA crossover strategy or whichever with a particular configuration and run the experiments. But I want multiple ones. So how can we, is the system prepared for this? So let's tell it. Now, the main goal of this web application and the command line interface was to build a system that could interpret text to create a configuration of multiple stocks to review on maybe multiple strategies, and inside each strategy, a particular configuration. And I see that right now the system is based on running by a stock a particular strategy with multiple configurations and getting the best one. However, I'd like to a way to create folders or views so that I could create a project to compare specific strategies and see which one is the best, because I am interested in a particular set of stocks or strategies or configurations to test. This is, instead of having all of the applications, all of the backtesting strategies here, we would create like another button to select a particular project, and inside that project, we just compare what we want. So we have a way to specify a portfolio and work based on that. And here is what they propose. Data, projects. For each project, we have a configuration. Then we have the results and the summary. This looks quite good. And here we could have in the YAML the symbols, then the strategies with the configurations, and the command line interface commands. Yes, this is what we are looking for. Now here it will create the codes, which is on the back end as well, inside the project folder. There is a problem because, as you can see here, we got context low, 0% remaining. And that means that when we are sending messages, they accumulate because all of them are sent back and forth, and it doesn't have the proper limits to send as many messages as we want. So it will contract the conversation and it will create a summary, and then we can continue from that summary, because the chat cannot have a lot of messages at once. It's like 200,000 context per conversation, let's say. So let's wait for it, and I will go for a glass of water. All right, we're back. Let's see what it's doing here, because for the development, now we can see that it's running the portfolio with total runs of 6, ranking the strategies with the symbols, and here is the best strategy per symbol, changing how it loads based on projects. And I think the system now is great to go. Let me check on the projects. Data, projects, tech portfolio, configuration. We've got multiple strategies, multiple symbols, and some cache. Great. Now for the summary, here we have it of all of the results at once. And to review these results, I suspect the system has also created the configuration in the web application. So now we can see by each one of the projects which was based on the symbol which was the best, and the results matrix by strategy and symbol, so that we know in which stock we should allocate the money. And here we have all of the results. Great. So it'd be cool to build another type of project so that it has more depth. It's more complicated, more complex. All right. Now, is there a way to test I'm gonna say it through the chat. All right. Now I'd like to create a project to test multiple stocks, multiple strategies with different configurations at once, so that it's more complex and there are more variations, and I can know where to allocate the money. So create it. And from here, it will create a new folder inside projects, which is called portfolio optimization. And here it's gonna work with the Magnificent 7 almost, with multiple strategies and the settings, which is if I invest $1,000, how is it going to perform a starting date on 2021 from that starting date. And now it's running all of these experiments itself. However, we are getting some warnings because in the middle there are some problems with the code, but it's fine because it can run and we get the results. And this is basically what we meant at the beginning by working with the AI agents to build the system where they can run these tests and iterate upon the solutions we can see in here. I told create a project with multiple stocks, multiple configurations, and then it's running all of the experiments across all of the symbols to represent the results. And this is what we are getting into the folder by looking at the results, these many backtests that the AI agents can take a look inside to determine which are the best, which configurations, which stock. Also, we get a summary that not only we can see on the web, on the terminal, the editor of codes, but also we can go onto the web application interface we had created with the AI Assistant 2 and look at the projects. If we reload portfolio optimization, now we are on multiple symbols, multiple strategies, and here we see the results matrix to see which strategy and stock would be the best to allocate our money. And here we observe all of the results. So mission accomplished. I hope that you have enjoyed the stream, and I will see you on the next ones. If you have any doubts, questions, proposals, please let me know in the comments. On top of that, remember that if you want to develop custom applications for you or your company, we provide those services through daytons.com. Here you can see many other customers we have worked with, the solutions we can provide, and even if some of them are not there, we can also do it. Anything related with data, web applications, using data, algorithms, machine learning, APIs. Here you can see more examples in Learn from our blog, like we are doing trading strategies for energy markets as well. And here is everything documented, how we do it with the Python codes, the metrics to look at, opportunity matrices that you can look to see which areas are best to invest. And if you want to have a discovery call free of charge, like no commitments, we can have it. Just click here from Dayton's free call with an expert, which will be me in this case. And here is what you will get from the call: project assessment, technical feasibility, approach outline, and my honest advice on how we should approach the project. And here is what you will get, also the Zoom link to join. So if you are ready to go, let's meet each other, how we can collaborate on a project, take a look at my schedule, and book a time slots. Remember, free of charge, no commitments. Let's meet each other and see how we can help. It's been a pleasure. This is Dayton's Vibe Coding, and I will see you on the next one that will be published in the web daytons.com. You can reserve for the next one, or else also stay updated on the new programs that I will be showcasing by subscribing to the email list here or the newsletter, which is also in the web application. It's been a pleasure, and I will see you on the next one.